Hi, welcome to the breadboard. In the previous video we went through a new project that I'm starting, all about building a Voron 350mm by 350mm by 500mm 3D printer with enclosures, so it's going to be able to print a few more advanced filaments as well as ABS, nylon, carbon fiber things, etc., etc. We've gone a little bit about the tools that are required in the previous video as well. In this short video, I just want to cover the some of the design philosophy of Voron, the bill of materials, some of the parts that I have, some of the parts that I've needed to source, etc. And then after that, we will be getting into starting the build. So I hope you find this video informative, and I'll keep it as brief because I'm going to cover a lot of details in the videos to come. Let's get on with it. We talked about all the hardware and tools and things like that that we need. So let's just have a quick overcap of why Voron and why this particular model of it. Actually, I've already covered why this particular size because of all the parts that I already have. And I've already designed the Voron 2, but going to the Voron website, Voron Design is a design group. They do not sell Vorons. They do not even sell kits for Voron. There are lots of other companies, AliExpress, Amazon, etc., that are used to sell kits and things like that. I think from my observation, one of the best kits that's around right now is the LDO kits that you can get online. I think you can get them directly from LDO. I'm not sure what the price is. It all depends on what build you get, what add-ons you get, etc., etc. So I'll provide a link in the description of where to go to have a look. But anyway, Voron, one of their philosophies is to provide a design that uses off-the-shelf parts, COTS, common off-the-shelf parts. And by that is that when you've built one, you can easily repair it. There's no proprietary parts or anything involved in the build. If you buy a Voron ready build or something that claims to be a Voron ready build and it's using maybe steel formed frame or something like that, or some kind of proprietary joining mechanism for parts of the frame that you wouldn't be able to buy except from that company, then it's not a Voron. It may be based on a Voron, but it's not a Voron by definition. We're building a Voron through and through to start with. I mean, I may modify things later, but I'll try to keep true to the name of Voron. Voron provide all of the details. They provide the CAD files, STL files for all of your printed parts, but the CAD files are there too if you wanted to modify some. A complete manual for building it, very, very detailed. There's actually in their Discord group, there's a lot of pictures of people's builds and things that you can have a look at. And there's an area where you can post your build as you're doing it if you really wanted to as well, which gives you an extra level of help. Because you can post your build and people will comment or provide feedback to it and things. So one of the most important things that I found in here is a configurator. So let's go into this. Go into the configurator and you can specify and you will get a customized bill of materials. Direct feed or Bowden feed. If you're into 3D printing, you'll know what each of these options are, but I'll quickly describe. Bowden feed is where the extruder is actually off the main area of the print. It doesn't move around with the print head, but you do have maybe several feet of filament between the extruder pushing it and pulling it and the actual hot end, which is extruding it out onto your build surface. The plus side of that is that you have a lighter extruder to move around, so therefore theoretically you can go faster. But you have the issue of more stringing and more retraction and things like that, which can slow things down, but you do have the ability to go a little bit faster. Direct feed, the extruder is mounted directly, usually on top of the extruder assembly. On top of the hot end assembly. So you're increasing the weight maybe by 100 grams or more. We'll weigh mine when we get to it. The benefit you get is that you can print a lot more materials like TPU. TPU is very hard to print through a Bowden feed. Not impossible, but hard. It also means retraction distances are a lot less so that you can speed that up. But you do have more mass on the extruder assembly. That whole thing is obviously much, much heavier. I'm going to do direct feed. So let's go next. It's going to be a brand new build because I don't have a Voron already. So what kind of joints? We'll look at that when we do a separate video for the frame, but blind joints is where you are basically butting the extrusions together. Gets you a very strong joint and it minimizes your parts count as well. And you're trying to get very precise angles on your joints, like 90 degrees. Cable management, if you're going to be using a drag chains for running your cables through, especially if you have a hot end that has all the cables individually run from a control board or something, then cable chain would definitely be recommended. If you're using a CAN bus or USB bus connected hot end, then you've only got the power and 2 wires for data coming from your control board up to the hot end, so you could choose to have a loop running with your PTFE tubing instead of using drag chains for the hot end. You'll still have drag chains for some of the other parts, but certainly not for the hot end. I'm going to pick generic drag chains. I do have some, although I may not end up using all of them because I do have a CAN bus circuit board for a hot end, so we'll be trying to use that. Printer size, so the printers come in 3 different standard sizes, 250, 300, and 350. All the parts are readily off-the-shelf parts, so you can buy, the main thing here is the build plates. All the extrusions, obviously you can cut them down. A build plate and a build platform, a little harder to cut down because spring steel is not easy to cut, for example. I'm going to do custom size, not that I'm actually doing a 350 millimeter build plate, so my X and Y size is 350 millimeter, but I'm doing a custom Z height on it, so I'm using 500 millimeter Z height instead of 350 because I have the extrusions and I have linear rails that will do that. So I figured, why cut them down? Why not just make it slightly taller? All the printed parts are the same no matter what size you do. The only thing to be aware of when you're doing extra height is stability might be an issue, especially when you start using it in faster modes and your flying gantry is getting near the top of the build platform, build height. It could start swinging that printer around because there's a lot of mass flying around at high speed with high accelerations potentially. So by putting some corner bracings in might help if you find that to be a problem. So custom printer configuration, I'm going to put 350, which is what I'm building for the X and Y, and this is going to be 500. So you can see it automatically adjusts the full frame size. So there's the size of my extrusions that I can use for the vertical. I figured that if I cut them down, I'm never going to have anything to use for that 20 centimeters of tubing unless I build a really teeny printer. Width and depth is 510 by 510. So there we go. We go next. Confirms our size. Now what you've got here now is I can download a complete bill of materials right here. Or you can just show it on the screen. You can see all the fasteners, the motion components, steel rods, linear rails, the belt lengths you need. It's a little bit generous on the belt lengths, but I wouldn't, that gives you plenty of room for messing around while you're trying to feed them and things like that. The tooth idlers, smooth idlers, bearings, etc., etc. BMG extruder components, that's assuming you're building, I think, a Clockwork 2 extruder. All of your electronics, right from rocker switches for the power on-off, cables, filters, a lot of options. When you look in, I'm using parts that I've got laying around from disassembled machines and stuff like that. So I actually have a medical grade power inlet, which has got a filter built right in the back of it and stuff like that. And it just happens to fit perfectly into the 3D print for that part of the build. So perfect. NEMA 17 motors, NEMA 14 motor for the extruder. NEMA 17 motors, these specific ones are specified. They've got a decent torque to them, and they've been proven to be very, very reliable. I have 6 NEMA 17 motors from RS Components for some projects I did quite a while ago. They're actually 400 steps per millimeter per rotation, which is 0.9 degrees per step. The ones that are normally used for the Z motors and the Core XY are 200 millimeters, but the ones I've got are supposedly quite powerful And right now I don't have the budget to buy the ones that are being recommended here, so I'm going to go with those for now. Again, these are the recommended ones, but just because you change from the recommended doesn't mean it's not a Voron build. You can still get using stock off the shelf components. Where you might suffer is how fast you could print or something like that. Display, right down to fuses, power supplies. It specifies a Meanwell 200 watt 24 volt power supply because the bed is mains powered. So you don't need 300, 400 watt power supplies for this build. It specifies a 5 volt power supply as well, 25 volt. I don't have the right one for this, but I do have plenty of DC to DC converters which would replace that power supply. If you're not an electronics inclined type of person, then this will probably cost you $25 or $30 or something for this 5 volt power supply. Keystone active probe. So I'm probably going to do a tap probe. This is the inductive probe of the standard build. Hot end kits, DIN rails, diodes, fans, etc. I had some of the fans already. These 5050s and 4040s I already had. The 6060s I didn't, and I actually managed to get Black Friday sale on the 6060s. You need 3 of them, it says here. So I managed to get these for, I think it was $15 or $20 for all 3. That was pretty good. Rubber feet, this is just goes in the very bottom of the build. The Mitsumi frame parts are slightly different profile than what you find for most older 3D printer builds and things like that. We'll talk about that when we get to the frame build. Miscellaneous components, grease, PTFE tubing, foam tape, neodymium magnets, Loctite. Loctite, you need a little bit, so you don't need a great big tube of it or anything like that. VHB tape for sticking things to the panels, sticking prints to the panels so that you can easily apply them to the frame and stuff like that. All the cables that you need, crimp connectors and things like that. You can buy a pre-wired loom. You just pay a bit extra money for somebody else having done it for you. This assumes that you're going to be assembling everything. And some of these connectors can be quite small, and having a proper crimping tool really is essential to make this thing reliable. Coroplast sheet, 2 of them. These go on the bottom end of the printer. One isolates the build volume from the electronics. The other one isolates the bottom of the printer from fingers getting under and things like that into the electronics. And then you've got acrylic sheets where you have one for the left, one for the right. You have one for the top, and then you have 2 here which are smaller ones for the doors. Now obviously in my case, because I'm going to build a taller printer, then I'm going to need to get taller plastic. And then your build plate. Now I fortunately already have a build plate. I think it's not exactly 14 by 14, but it's close enough. And I've got a silicone heater. This is 650 it's specifying. I've actually got one that's 750. Magnetic sheet and a spring steel. So I bought on the Black Friday sales a spring steel print surface and magnetic sheet. I already had components good enough for this. So that's the whole build. So everything is included in this build. So we just close out the configurator. You can download that complete configuration. By the way, it comes down as a CSV file, so you can open it in Excel or Google Docs or something like that and use it for your own shopping list basically. I just printed it out and used it for when I was assembling all my parts, and I'll just highlight the pieces when I was done for those. But the sourcing guide is something else which is quite invaluable if you're going to fully source on your own. So when you open it up, you can see here it's got every component, I think in the same order as it was on the bill of materials we saw. And it has links to all the different places. Now, some of these are USA only, so MasterCard, Bolt Depot, etc. Substitute those for your own local hardware store or something. As I said, I don't recommend going to Amazon or something to buy all the bolts, because you're going to pay a lot less money going to a local hardware store. And I don't mean Home Depot, like a box store for consumers. I mean, find yourself an industrial nuts and bolts and bearings kind of supplier. You'll probably find you get them way cheaper there. Might have to buy 100 or 200 of them, but that's still going to be cheaper than buying the 20 that you might have needed. And then you got lots of spares. A lot of links go to AliExpress for things, affiliate links. Now, there are some going to Amazon as well. Now, remember, the affiliate links will provide a little bit of money to the Voron design team to help them. Obviously, maintaining a website in this level of detail, that costs money. They're putting time into it and all that kind of stuff. So using one of their affiliate links to go in and buy some of the parts, it's your way of saying thank you versus just going off on your own way. Now, if obviously some of these affiliate links don't have the parts, then you need to go elsewhere to find them. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously keeping this whole page up to date would be a mammoth task. So there's no guarantee that every link will be working, but pretty much most of them should be. Anyway, so you've got notes, all sorts of different things about where you can get these parts from. Some are from things like DigiKey for fuses and stuff like that, electronics components. Steppers Online for the NUMA 17 motors and things, or even Amazon or AliExpress. All the electronics, most of the electronics coming from DigiKey. I found that things like DigiKey or RS Components or what's the other one that I use often? Their prices are usually quite good, and often you look at Amazon, a lot of times they may have bought things from DigiKey or somewhere, and then they're just reselling them for a profit. So even, check out the main links and things first before you decide to make your buy, because you could save yourself quite a bit of money. Silicone heater pads, obviously Kivo is a big name here, and they've got the different voltages for things. So 120 volt for North America, 220 volt for a lot of Europe, 220, 240, it's all going to be pretty much the same thing. PEI build plates and a magnetic sheet. Now I got my build plate from Creality. I think it was Creality. No, Big Tree Tech. I got mine. It's slightly bigger, but it better fits my build plate. Aluminum plate that I have. It's still roughly the right size though. Again, getting them from or substituting some components for things that you already have or that you couldn't get from one of these links, nothing wrong with that, and it doesn't change it from being a Voron build. And actually, one of the things about Voron, if you stick to the build and things like that, you can actually go to the Voron design folks and they'll issue you a serial number. You have to put a little video up of the printer building something, like printing something, and provide some Discord user ID and things as well. But you can actually get a serial number for your Voron, which is kind of cool. Bit of a fun thing, but like that proud sticker when you're all done. So yeah, this is now the introduction, the why, the wherefore. Like I said, a lot of parts I've had for a long time. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything we need to go over about what I'm going to build, why I'm building it, the bill of materials that I need, where some of these things have come from, the parts I'm talking about. And next thing to do now is to get into actually building the printer. So the next video will be diving into the first stage, which is assembling the frame. So these are all, in this case, done from 2020 aluminum extrusions, or if you're in Europe, aluminium, and making sure they're nice and square, and different techniques to make sure of that. Anyway, not going to go into a lot of details here because that's for the next video. I will see you there.